Welcome, Matthium 1 students or grade 7 students or science class. We need to finish this one, this chapter 5 about atoms, elements, and compounds, because you need to pass the midterm tests. And so I am speaking this very slowly because you will be able to watch this on YouTube and also translate this into your language, and that you'll be able to review this over and over again. Okay, so topic 5.1 is about atoms. What are atoms and elements and compounds? All right, you see that table of these elements. So what about atoms? Now, matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. It is made up of very tiny particles known as atoms. Atoms, on the other hand, are the basic building blocks of all matter. They're so small that we cannot see them except with an electron microscope. Electron microscopes are very powerful compared to the compound light microscopes used in school laboratories. An atom is made up of even smaller particles known as subatomic particles. There are three types of subatomic particles, namely the protons, electrons, and neutrons. Now, you see here in this diagram that subatomic particles are divided into protons, electrons, and neutrons. At the center of the atom, there is a nucleus. It is made up of the protons and neutrons. The electrons move around the nucleus just like the planets orbiting the sun. So most of the volume in an atom is space. Okay? Now see the structure of an atom. The neutrons are neutral or do not have any changes. The protons are positively charged, whereas the electrons are negatively charged. Every atom has the equal number of protons and electrons. This makes all atoms without any charges. However, the nucleus of an atom is positively charged due to the presence of protons in it. The masses of subatomic particles are too light to be measured in kilograms or grams. We use atomic mass unit or AMU or AMU for their masses. A proton has about 1 AMU, and neutron has about the same mass as a proton, whereas an electron has 1 over 1840 AMU. Therefore, an electron is very much lighter than a proton or neutron. Now, let's look at into the future. Nanotechnology, okay, is the study and application of extremely small things. This technology is being used in many industries. In the future, We could have tiny machines that can enter our body to repair damaged organs or even to fix broken bones. Our devices may become smaller and more portable. Now, let's watch this video about this atom. All right?
Atoms are tiny particles that are so small they're not possible to see with the naked eye. They're only possible barely to make out with the most powerful microscopes. Everything that exists in our universe is made up of atoms, including you, I, and the device you're watching this on. In fact, there are about 7 billion atoms in your body alone, which is 7 times 10 to the 27 atoms. But what is an atom? In this video, we are going to look at what atoms are made of, and the mass and size of atoms, and the arrangement of electrons in an atom. Atoms may be tiny particles themselves, but they are made of even smaller particles, called subatomic particles. Atoms consist of a central nucleus that contains protons and neutrons. Protons are positively charged, and neutrons have no charge. This makes the nucleus overall positively charged. Much like how the Sun has planets orbiting it, the nucleus has electrons orbiting. Electrons have a negative charge. Because electrons are negatively charged and the nucleus is positively charged, they are electrostatically attracted to each other, like how gravity ensures attraction between planets and the Sun. So that's the general structure of an atom. What about its mass and size? Protons and neutrons have the same mass, but electrons are so small they weigh almost nothing in comparison to protons and neutrons. In fact, they are around 2,000 times lighter. As a result, the mass of an electron is concentrated at its nucleus. So that's the mass of an atom. Let's talk about its size. One way to describe the size of an atom is its radius. The radius of an atom is the distance from its center, where its nucleus is, to the outermost shell of electrons. The radius of an atom is typically 10 to the power -10 meters, which is very small. So the majority of the mass of an atom is contained in its nucleus. But in terms of size, the nucleus is much smaller than the atom as a whole. In fact, electrons can orbit really far away from the nucleus. If the atom was the size of a sports arena, the nucleus could be the size of a pea in the middle. Let's finish off by looking at the electrons in a little more detail. Negatively charged electrons orbit around the positive nucleus in specific orbits or shells. Different atoms have different numbers of shells or orbitals. Each shell is of a specific energy level, meaning an electron must possess a certain amount of energy to reside in a certain shell. Electrons in shells closest to the nucleus have the least energy, and electrons in the outermost shell have the highest energy levels. In other words, electrons orbit the nucleus similar to how planets orbit the Sun. However, electrons can only orbit at specific distances and with specific energies. We will look at the differences in structure of atoms of different elements and the periodic table in this video. So there we have the structure of an atom. Atoms have a positively charged nucleus made up of positively charged protons and neutrally charged neutrons, which is orbited by negatively charged electrons. The majority of the mass of an atom is found in the nucleus, and the typical size of atoms is 10 to the power -10 meters. To learn about how we discovered the existence of atoms and the structure of atoms, watch this video.
All right. Now that we have it, you don't need to answer this workbook because you don't have it. Let's conclude our study. An atom consists of proton, neutron, and electron. A proton has a positive charge. The atoms of the same element have the same number of protons. A neutron is neutral with no net charges, while an electron has a negative charge. When atoms have equal numbers of protons and electrons, they are electrically neutral. Protons and neutrons are in the center of the atom, making up the nucleus. The electrons move in the free space around the nucleus. I want you to answer your book here or on page 102. Test yourself 5.1. I'm gonna send this copy to your line group. All right. Okay, so here, finish answering all the questions in this lesson 5.1, and then see you in the next lesson or the next video.